recommend everyone read this book. To be real, if there is anybody that would like to pay me to do a course based on this book, hit me up. My email is in the information, because I think that this book is the starting ground. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Tea Time with Letitia on Gratified Grad, where it's my goal to help you graduate with gratification. Today's tea is an apple cinnamon tea. I was feeling like I needed some, relaxing, calming, homey kind of feeling. And so, of course, it has cinnamon in it, and it's made with red rooibos. Really good and relaxing. It's made by Tazo, however you pronounce that name. This Tea Time with Letitia is me. I'm not sure when we're going to get more guests back, but at some point we will be having more graduate students coming back and having tea. But today I'm here to talk to you all about this book here. It's called My Grandmother's Hands. When I tell y'all, this book is a must read. And actually, let me tell you a little bit more about just the title, the author, and all of that. So the book itself, like I said, it's called My Grandmother's Hands, with the subtitling of Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. And it's by Resmaa Menakem. He is a licensed therapist. This book is under the topics of psychology, self-help, and current affairs. And it is published under the Central Recovery Press. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it receives so much praise. And the praise is honestly very well deserved. It came out in 2017. So I think, considering the pandemic and what we all experienced during the pandemic, this is very timely. I also find it quite interesting that this author is actually, he lives in the Minneapolis area, and he works with the Minneapolis Police Department in helping to train their bodies to release some of that traumatic retention, so that they can actually do their job as police officers and serving and protecting the community that they have agreed to serve and protect, and not just be very defensive and policeive and things like that. So he talks about how you can work with the Black, white, and police bodies. But yeah, to know what happened during the pandemic to George Floyd in Minneapolis, I'm curious, and I may just look up, what the author has to say, but I'm curious to know, what are his thoughts about what happened to George Floyd in the area that he works with. But once again, this book is so helpful. It provides so many resources. Like I said, I highly recommend everyone read this book. To be real, if there is anybody that would like to pay me to do a course based on this book, hit me up. My email is in the information, because I think that this book is the starting ground. It's very even though the book itself is kind of black and whitish in the sense of it does not include the intersectionality of personalities or of people in general. I think that it does a very good job at bringing in multiple disciplines. It talks about the science of things. It talks about the psychology of things. It talks about the history of things. So it doesn't just address one aspect of racism in the sense of how it explains it. It talks about it from many contexts. But once again, it does break it down into very simplistic terms of saying, if you're a Black person, do this. If you're a white person, do this. If you're a police body, do this. But I mean, it's one book. You can't expect one book to solve all the problems. but I think that it provides tons and tons of tangible things that you can do to heal your body. So for example, I'm gonna read a couple of tips, and he does specifically say, like, if you're a white body, do this. If you're a black body or a darker skinned body, do this. He acknowledges the ancestors, so he brings in traditional culture of black. He brings in black culture into this book. It was overall the structure of the book, I think it's fabulous. Starts off with introducing you to healing, and then it goes into actually taking you through healing from whatever you choose, but it takes you through the process of healing, and then it brings you out on the other side. Now, that process of taking you through healing, I'm not gonna lie, it is difficult. Like, I am blessed because I had someone who I could kind of like verbally vomit all of my thoughts and feelings and reactions to, without them feeling the need to respond or solve or fix the problem. But it was tough getting through a certain section of this book. But that's the point of growth, right? Growth and self-care and like that deep self-work. It's not always going to feel good, but it's necessary. I akin it to, or I relate it to getting a massage. If your body is really tight and really sore, when you get a massage, it's going to feel like the masseuse is literally like beating up your body. But the next day, your body will thank you for it. Your body will feel so much better. And so I akin that to, you know, going through that process of deep working, deep healing. He starts off every chapter with quotes. So, and just quotes from different people. Let's see, I'm trying to find the beginning of a chapter here. So one of the quotes that he starts off with is from, in one of his chapters, is from James Baldwin. And it says, I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hate so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain. So, you know, the author goes through, how do you deal with pain? How do you metabolize it? How do you allow it to exist in your body and then release it, right? And releasing it in a healthy way, not in a way that traumatizes or hurts others. So many good points. I think that I'm going to read this one excerpt. It is, I often tell people that resilience is not a thing or an attribute, but a flow. It moves through the body and between multiple bodies when they are harmonized. It is neither built nor developed. It is taken in and expressed as a part of a larger relationship with a family, a group, a community, or the world at large. And in my mind, I thought of this. All right, so, you know, I take notes as I write. And so, like, I took this note in the corner here. And it says, kind of similar to grace or patience. I notice in my own life that when others are patient with me, I find myself being more patient with others. And so it's like kind of one of those things of when you receive it, you can pay it forward. And so I think that that is the same thought about resiliency. And I hadn't thought of resiliency in that way, but this author in this book definitely talks about how things are passed down from parents to children, or from just caretakers who have a dominant role in a child's life, and how they can pass down the resiliency to them based on how much resiliency they build in themselves, which then creates room for that child to have more resiliency. A big part of the author's argument is that we pass down trauma through our DNA, not just through our actions and habits, but our trauma can actually be passed down through our changes in the DNA. And I think about this in terms of epigenetics, right? So there have been studies done on, this was a study done on monkeys actually, where they took a baby monkey away from its mother and replaced its mother with a wire mother, right? They took a wire mold and put a cloth over it and gave that to the monkey. And then they had monkeys where they gave the monkey their actual mother. And of course, the wire monkey is an inanimate object, and so it wouldn't show love back to the monkey, which then made the baby monkey more aggressive. Whereas the monkey that was allowed to be with its mother was softer, was gentler. And so throughout that creation of that more aggressive monkey, the epigenetics changed. More aggressively, or more genes that are related to aggression were turned on, and the genes that are more soft and calm were turned off. And so that epigenetic is passed on to that monkey's child. The same thing with the monkey that actually had its parent. That monkey, or not the same thing, the opposite, but that monkey had more genes that were soft and calm and peaceful turned on, and more of the aggressive genes were turned off. And so those traits were passed down to that next generation of monkeys. And so the author, takes and says, this applies to trauma as well. And he also brings in that, maybe that's why, and in the Black community, we have this thing about saying, oh, that trait came from the daddy side of the family, because we don't have anybody like that or acts like that on my side of the family, right? But in the Black community, we do look at certain traits and we're like, where did this child get this trait from? Why is this child so anxious? Some of that depends on how much did the parent heal from something. When you turn on certain genes, it prepares the body for an environment that it's coming into. And so if the mother is stressed, then the child is preparing itself to come into a stressed environment. So it's really interesting. We've been talking just in the science world and in literature about how stressful environments result in lower birth weights in children, and how you see lower birth weights in African American women when they're having their children and things like that. And so I think that this provides a very interdisciplinary approach to discussing what the problem is, where the problem came from, and how it is so imminent and pervasive in just the water we drink, in the way that we breathe, in the way that we speak. He also has sections of body practices where he gives tangible tips and things that you can do as a group of people. So an example here is like body practices that you can do with other people is you can sing together, you can do group drumming, you can do rhythmic clapping, you can hum together. Or you can do like brief, secure, like shoulder touches, right? Standing in solidarity, holding hands. Those things are all unifying actions, and it brings people to harmonize their bodies, to settle, to tune, to relax into whatever energy is being created and cultivated in that moment. I recently put a Facebook post up and I was like, can I share a secret with y'all? If I notice that I'm around, sometimes, I'll say sometimes now, but if I notice I'm around an unsettled or an upset body, or a body that's like showing some unsettled or upset feelings, I will intentionally relax my muscles and slow my breath. And if the upset body takes notice to what I'm doing, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, most of the time it calms that upset body down. And that's because it's just human nature to tune into the energy around you, right? So it is an intentional thing to do, because let's say I'm not paying attention to the energy I'm around or how someone is feeling. That person's upsetness could affect me. And then I could be wondering, like, why am I upset? Like, why am I feeling unsettled? And it's because I'm not in control of my energy, because I'm not paying attention to what's around me, right? So it can go both ways. That's why it's so important to know who you have in your environment, who you're around, and what energies you are interacting with. He gives the body practices. He also gives different activities that one can do. I think that it's really important to, and actually he gives a very clear and succinct definition of trauma, one that I hadn't thought of, and I wish I could find it. I should have marked it, but essentially he says that, oh, I found it. Look at that. Says that trauma is anything the body perceives as too much, too fast, or too soon. I'm going to read that one more time. Trauma is anything the body perceives as too much, too fast, or too soon. So nobody can dictate what trauma is to one individual, because nobody's in the psyche, in the brain of an individual who is experiencing something. But yeah, I highly recommend this. He also does a lot of breathing practices, slowing the breath. Another point that he talks about is the 5 anchors. These are 5 things that you can do in any moment to calm yourself down, to settle your body. Of course, if it's a body settling moment, right? Not every moment is meant for your body to be settled. Some moments your body is meant to be activated, and it is appropriate for you to respond in an activated manner. Where there are other times where you should settle your body, take a moment to breathe, ground yourself in the situation so that you can then navigate the situation. I will also note that there are chapters. So there's one chapter that's specific to healing the Black body. There's a chapter that's specific to healing the white body. And there's a chapter that is specific to healing the police body. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, when I was reading through the book, it's because it follows the heavy hitting section of the book, the part where it's taking you through a process of actually healing. I skipped the white section because I was like, he clearly says that this section is meant for white people. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna come back to this later, because right now I am healing and I don't need to experience what a white person needs to experience as I'm trying to heal. Now, after I finished the book, after he, brought back the energy and had said that we can move forward as people, I went back and I did read the white section of the book. And there were helpful things for me as a Black person within the white section of the book. So I would highly suggest just reading the book in its entirety. Of course, I read the police section. And then not only does he provide all of these things within the book, he also gives resources for what you can do outside of the book. So something that I'm going to do, or I'm actually working on doing right now, is getting my certificate in psychological first aid. It is a free training. You can go online. I'm going to pop up a clip here of the website, but you can go online and get this training for free. I would highly suggest everyone do this training, right? It's an online training. You do it at your own, at your own leisure and your own pace. Also, at the end of the book, there is a QR code for if you would like to deepen your understanding. It provides websites, articles, essays, podcasts, and other perspectives and relevant information. This book is a great starting place. Not only does he tell you the future of where you can go from his work, but he also tells you the past of where he has come from with his work. And actually, one of the works that he mentions in this book is Stereotype Threat, or Whistling Vivaldi, which talks about stereotype threat by Claude and Steele. I've done a book review on that book as well. So I found it really great, or reassuring, to know that I'm in line with healing because I've been reading the books. He also mentioned Bell Hooks. We all know that she recently passed back in, December. And I actually recently got her book, All About Love. And I will be reading that book in its entirety soon. I did a book excerpt during Black History Month where I read portions of her chapter 1, and I decided that, I need to read this entire book. But to see it here as well is another confirmation that I'm heading in the right direction. So I hope that this video has given you some information, something you can do, a book you can read in your free time. And with that, hopefully this is another tool that you can add to your toolbox so that you may graduate with gratification. See ya.